within Winklebury. Now we move now to the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of December. You've all had an opportunity to read them. Are you content that they are a true and accurate reflection of that meeting? Thank you. I take that as read. We move now to the more substantive items on our agenda. The council plan as outlined by ourselves in association with our residents, because everything we do should be focused upon them and a confirmation that this is a great place to live and work. I've laid down a foreword for this, but in essential terms, the council plan prioritises four things: the strengthening of communities, the protection and enhancing of our environment, especially after our declaration of a climate change emergency and our work towards a very severe target to make sure that we deliver that for our residents. Improving safety, both in the built environment, but also in the sense that our residents feel confident when they go out of their doors that they are in a safe environment to do what they wish at a time that they choose. And also, because we are a growth borough, planning for the future to ensure that not just the housing, but the infrastructure that surrounds it is fit for purpose and allows an expansion and extension and an adaptation of the borough as it moves forward, both in terms of housing, but jobs and the leisure that we are about to offer. Many of the things that we have highlighted in our consultation with the resident survey give us food for thought, but also once again endorses the direction of travel that we have outlined in our council plan. And I'm delighted to see that in the majority of cases we have aligned very well with our residents. So I ask you, we will be taking this obviously to full council in a fortnight's time. I hope that you will look at these results, understand where our council plan feeds into it, and if there are opportunities to adapt and change some of the lines that we take, then I hope that you will be strong enough to put those forward and understand that we are doing whatever we do for the benefit of our residents. So if anyone has any comments, I'd be happy to take them. On the basis that I presume you're keeping your powder dry for the council meeting, I would just say to you, reflect on what our residents have said to us, and then when you get the opportunity at the full council to replay what you are finding out from your residents and confirm what we hope is a council plan that is a delivery for a better, brighter future for Basingstoke. Thank you very much. Moving now to the medium-term financial strategy and budget update, which obviously contains many of the papers. 151 officer, are you introducing this, or will it be Hannah? Hannah. Oh, he's speaking on items. Oh yeah, it is item 6. You can come up. Thank you, Andy. I apologise for ignoring you. It's difficult sometimes, but I managed it. Thank you, Andy. You have 4 minutes from now.
Thank you, Leader. Just a handful of questions and comments really on the medium-term financial strategy. The references I'll be doing is to the main paper. There's lots of individual papers, not least the widely circulated presentation. Page 107, I noticed that the pension fund, there's a 20% gap, which is a bit of a surprise to me. But I'd like to ask what plans are in place to close the gap, and how are we going to achieve coverage of that? Because I think that's really important that we do fulfil our promises to our employees when they retire, they can get their pension. Second one, on page 119, there's a projected funding which is growing from 0 this year to 6.5 million in 3 years' time. So I'd like to ask what plans are in place to close this gap. Can we expect more cuts to services, given that the overall cuts since 2009-10 are already account to 25% overall? Could we expect bigger increases in fees and charges? According to chart 2 on page 58, we already take nearly as much in fees as charges as we do in council tax. Or the other option is to lobby central government to get more funding. And if you look on chart 1 on page 58, that tells its own story of declining government support in various aspects. Revenue support grant is now 0, could go less than 0. I'd also like to ask what replacement we'll have for the local infrastructure funding if the new homes bonus disappears, because I understand that's currently under review by central government. So those 2 points really are sort of main cause for concern in sort of the overall kind of stability of the budget. There's some other items I'd like to ask specific questions on. Firstly, the football club. So the football club is going to give a councillors briefing tomorrow, so we'll get more information on that. But what help can the football club expect from the council? I think there's plenty of strong opinion from the public that letting the club die would not be an acceptable option. Secondly, well, I would also like to say football clubs don't move very often. It's like every 50 to 100 years they move. So if we could look at it as a 50 or 100 year event, that might inform our planning on it. Secondly, the ice rink. What provision can we make to ensure we have a new ice rink, keep ice in Basingstoke? I would say that changing ice rink is a 50-year event as well. The original ice rink was designed to last 50 years, but unfortunately, under the tenureship of Planet Ice, the building's worn out after 30. But we do need to think very carefully about that.
1 minute, Andy.
Okay, 2 more items, I'll be very quick. Parking. So the prioritised programme, which has been active since 2005, it looks like the budget for that is trending to 0. And I would like to ask if there are any alternatives in place, especially when we consider the climate emergency. We're going to have to put in a lot of public access charging points on the streets, especially where we've got on-road parking in places like Brookvale or Southview, or where you've got communal parking in places like Popley, South Ham, Brighton Hill, or indeed in some of the rural areas there'll be challenges there as well. And I note that there's a £500,000 climate emergency fund. Is that really enough for what we want to do? I mean, we're looking at massive radical changes to get the council carbon neutral by 2025. So I think that's it, and I think I'm just out of time.
I'm grateful for your efforts to get us on time. There are a lot of... Sorry.
Apologies, can I just say, just to be totally, if we are going to discuss the football club, which I wasn't aware was a thing this evening, then I do have to declare an interest due to my job. I don't intend to leave the room because we're not making decisions or anything, but it's just I can't get involved in any discussions over that.
I'm grateful for that clarification. I just think we can, in general terms, talk about some of the things that Councillor McCormick has raised, and that is absolutely normal. Shall we move around the table? Do you want to pick up any of these, Hannah, or shall I?
Leader, if I may just give some advice to Cabinet. It would be normal for the portfolio holder to introduce the report, then for a visiting councillor to put any questions that they wish to put, and then there could be a response, if any, to the visiting councillor, as well as then any contributions from other members. So it's just to say that we do need the report to be introduced formally to the meeting, and then to follow on from there.
I'm happy to take that. Hannah, so over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I can do that, and then we can address some of your points. This report presents an updated medium-term financial strategy for the period of 2020-2021 to 23-24. Cabinet have already considered these proposals in draft form at our meeting on the 12th of November last year. I would also ask Cabinet to note the proposed amendment to the Section 151 officer reports to the MTFS and the capital programme, which we are considering next, and we will be updating the reports accordingly before they go to full council in 2 weeks' time. Since we looked at the proposals in November, we've completed a full consultation with a whole range of stakeholders, which overall has provided support for our multi-stranded approach to balancing the budget. And that includes making sure we're investing the proceeds of our growth, maintaining high quality services, always striving for cost reductions and better value through transformation and service reviews, as well as making sure that we are actively looking for opportunities to generate additional income. And we have achieved this throughout the year, and we will continue to achieve this and reduce the budget gap in future years, while remaining one of the lowest council tax authorities in the country. I believe this is a robust and ambitious MTFS. We are maintaining key services that residents continually tell us that they value. It doesn't just look to continue our heritage of strong financial management and high quality service, but instead it expands and builds upon this. So examples of this is that our proposals include an increase in funding for CSPOs, or Community Support Patrol Officers, so that the key work they do in keeping our communities safer can develop across further local communities. It also provides additional funds to improve the gateways to Basingstoke Town and a flexible grant for councillors so that they can have a responsive opportunity to support their local communities. So I would ask for Cabinet to note, I'm not going to read through all the recommendations that we will make to full council because that would take half an hour. I would ask council to do that, and I will respond to questions in due course.
I'm grateful for that. Does anyone want to add anything more to Hannah's statement? No? Shall we pick up any of the points that you feel that we can tonight pick up for Councillor McCormick and any of this?
I will leave the pension gap to Sue. Yeah.
So sorry, on page 107, which is in the Appendix 1, whilst it does start to say that previously it had a budget, it had a gap deficit of 20%, it then goes on to say that the latest triennial update now shows that the fund is fully 100% funded. So there isn't actually a gap anymore.
Thank you for that. Just so as you are aware, we are now being webcast. It has been sorted. Anything else you'd like to add?
So in terms of meeting the budget gap in future years, we've always had strong support for our multi-stranded approach. We don't think it's right to constantly expect council taxpayers to foot the bill for everything the council does. And in terms of the revenue support grant, actually this council, because we have proactively managed our investments, is in a very good position to continue to serve our residents without it. And one of the key cornerstones to that is our property investment strategy. We have worked hard to make sure that we can be self-sufficient in the future, and we will continue to manage our assets in that way. In terms of football club and ice rink, I'd say they are not issues that can be met within a revenue budget, and therefore they're not covered. And I'm also note with interest that you would like to start charging residents in Brighton Hill for car parking.
Just on the car parking, because in my portfolio, Councillor McCormick is aware that because it's all linked with climate change and having electric charging points maybe around the borough and different things. So we have been in discussions about that. We have been in email. Councillor McCormick also sits on my climate change emergency map, and it is something that's come into a future map in the very near future. Officers emailed you recently this week in respect of that. So it's absolutely something that we're taking on board as an administration and something that we are looking at in the future.
Any other comments? No. I'd just like to say that you please be assured that we will be lobbying government hard that where we receive monies that are commensurate with our population and our growth ideals. So we will be making those comments, and I'm up to Westminster tomorrow to have an additional meeting over and above a social event. So I take all of the opportunities to say this is a great borough. There is more that central government can do to help us. And with our growth ambitions, will we get the new homes bonus? Well, we don't know. Funding from central government changes all of the time. We just have to be nimble in our finances to be able to adapt to whatever situation and in whatever guise money has to come in. But rest assured, the good governance of the finances of this borough are well set with the team here and the officer team who review everything that we do.
If I could just pick up something really specific from what Councillor McCormick said, and I want to pick up really the urgent position that the football club's in, and I really want to re-emphasise points that we've made over and over again. We have been working with Basingstoke Town Football Club, whether that's limited or the community club, personally for now 3.5 years, and we are doing everything and have had long conversations about doing what we can to facilitate a move to Winklebury. Obviously, there's a planning application in for the Camrose, and it is for the applicant to enter into some conversations with, as I know Councillor McCormick will know, with the Sports England's objection on file as far as mitigation and replacing like for like as far as the facilities that would be disappearing. We're also at the start of a project with Hampshire FA as far as looking at, we've given them the lease, we've put in the terms of the lease that there's a 10-year option for Basingstoke Town Football Club, whatever that looks like, to go to Winklebury. Nobody says that it's necessarily the long-term home as far as the council's concerned. If it needs to be temporary because we need to get football back into our town to give them a short-term financial future, nobody's clearer about that than I am, and I know Councillor Bean is. And we appreciate all the work that the Community Club Board is doing in incredibly difficult circumstances after being thrown out of the pitch in August last year. So again, some reassurance that we know and understand how important the investment as far as artificial pitch has been in the Winklebury football complex. We know the impact that has made to the amount of use that can happen in that complex by all levels, all ages, all gender as far as football teams, and really doing our best within the processes, which again I know Councillor McCormick will understand, within the planning process as far as doing everything that we can as far as the Camrose is concerned.
I'm grateful for that, and as you've raised the issue of the ice rink, I think, John, maybe you'd like to say something on that for Councillor McCormick.
Yes, thank you, Leader. As Councillor McCormack knows, the administration wishes to see ice continue in Basingstoke, and that's something that's shared by a lot of councillors in the borough. There's the long-term opportunity, which, because of our ambitious joint venture agreement with New River, can provide for a new ice rink. That's obviously subject to viability. As he knows, there's also a short-term issue, a risk of failure of the ice rink. And again, officers and this administration are working hard alongside Planet Ice and the long leaseholders, Standard Securities. We have put forward the possibility of 3 council-owned sites as a home for an ice rink, and there I can assure him there's an active dialogue going on looking at those options and other options, so that we can ensure that ice continues to be available for the residents of the borough.
Are we content that we note? Are we content that we note the medium-term financial strategy in front of us and the budget update? Are we? Agreed? Thank you. Then we move to item 8 on the agenda, which is, as they say, in a similar vein. It's the capital programme update and the strategy report. Hannah, back to you.
Thank you. This report provides an update on the capital programme and the strategy for that from this year to 2023-24 for council approval. As I mentioned before, it does also come alongside the proposed amendments. The strategy looks at how the council will finance, allocate and manage capital investments into vital services for the development of a successful and vibrant Basingstoke and Deane. The updated programme is 82.74 million and includes new portfolio priority additions to the programme of 5.31 million, all of which are fully funded from available resources. This capital programme ensures that we can deliver investment that benefits our residents and the visitors to the borough. This ranges from making our services easier and more flexible to access, to improvements to our sports facilities and community buildings, and therefore I commend it to Cabinet.
I'm grateful for the report and the financial soundness that is apparent in the report itself. Does anyone want to speak to it or make any additional comments on some of the regen, the capital spend? No. Okay, then we note it. The Chief Executive has reminded me that we can note the Cabinet report recommendation to item 7, but the Cabinet needs to approve formally. Oh, the MTFS on that. So can we do that? A show of... Agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Recommendation
Number 8.
Yeah, you're approving that.
Yep.
MTS, item 8.
Sorry, I turned the pages. MTFS item 8 to be approved by the Cabinet. Are we agreed?
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you. Good. Thank you. We move now to item 8, which is the property investment strategy, and Councillor Isaac.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet, we're being asked to agree the property investment strategy annual property plan 2020 to 2021. The report charts some very good progress over the last year and set some important challenges for our property investment portfolio or our property portfolio for the year ahead. It's just worth reminding everyone that the value of the property portfolio held by this council in March 2019 was put at £286 million. I'm very pleased that the initiative to transfer money out of Treasury, our Treasury into property investment to the tune of ultimately 32.5 million has now been invested in local properties and overall is yielding an impressive 7.1% per annum currently. So that's an important addition to our revenue firepower. The focus of the strategy under the report now switches to the wider corporate property strategy. That includes the enabling of redevelopment of obsolete commercial buildings in particular, working alongside long leaseholders and new investors so that we can deliver new buildings for businesses in the borough. Also, in line with the climate change declaration that we've made, that we look for opportunities to reduce the CO2 footprint of our property portfolio, and also we must take opportunities to liquidate those property assets that no longer fulfil the criteria under the strategy. So a good deal of work accomplished over the last 12 months, but a lot still to do as part of the active management of our property portfolio.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. I'd just like to add my thanks to what property does for this borough, and I note in section 6 of this report the property board. I think it will be very substantive going forward for the having an advisory board and overseeing, and also somewhere where we can bounce some ideas off to sharpen up the property investment strategy going forward. And I'm grateful that it was agreed that the advisory board should be established, and I look forward to hearing from it on what they are doing. Councillor Brown.
The only thing that I wanted to just highlight, I think it's one of those things that's often questioned, I think, when we talk a lot about properties in this council. I think it's very important that we highlight commercial rents give us £17.45 million worth of income. That's more than our council tax payers and our fees and charges put together. And that's a significant amount of money and has a significant benefit to our residents and what we end up charging them at the car parks. Thinking about what Councillor McCormick said earlier, that says, do you know what? It puts us in a really strong place to charge where we have to the rates that hopefully our residents will appreciate are significantly cheaper than some of our neighbours.
Does anyone else want to add to that? No. We take that as it's recommended that it agrees the property investment strategy annual property plan is considered and accepted on that basis. We now need to return to item 7 because I seem to be jumping around here. To ensure good order, the Cabinet needs to recommend to Council the recommendation back on item 7 on page 160. The Cabinet recommends to Council from 7 to 13. Are we agreed to take this to full Council in a fortnight's time?
Yep.
Agreed? Thank you. I believe that is now through the agenda as prescribed, and I thank you for your time.
No.
Oh, Manny Down, of course. I forget that. It's not been a good day to them. We move now to Manny Down procurement and governance. The update. This comes again from you, John.
Thank you, Leader. So this is a report entitled Many Down Procurement and Governance Update. I am informed by the officer team working on the Many Down project that we are close to completing the procurement of our joint venture partner, Urban and Civic, with Wellcome Trust. So this report outlines the necessary approvals that need to be in place to finalise and sign the required written resolutions to take forward the agreement with our private sector partner.
Does anyone want to make comment on that? No? Are we content then to take the recommendation as outlined in the update paper, or item 9? Agreed? Okay. Then it is a recommendation to Cabinet. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time and attendance. We'll run through that quite quickly.